Have you ever been driving late at night on a long, dark, empty road? The radio's playing low. The hum of the engine is the only other sound, and you start to feel a little. What if the stories you've heard, the ones that make the hair on your arms stand up, are more than just stories? They're meant to be spooky, a little bit of fun to scare your friends. And one of the most famous, most chilling of them all is the story of the Vanishing Hitchhiker. This one is different. This one is based on eyewitness accounts, on police reports, on events that people swear are true. Alex was a skeptic, a down-to-earth kind of person who didn't believe in ghosts or goblins. It was late, past midnight, and a thick, soupy fog was rolling in, swallowing the streetlights and turning the familiar highway into something alien. Alex was tired, his eyes heavy, just wanting to get home to his warm bed. He was about 20 miles from his exit when he saw her, a young woman, standing on the shoulder of the road. She was wearing a simple, almost old-fashioned white dress, which seemed to glow in the misty halo of his headlights. She wasn't thumbing for a ride, just standing there, looking lost. Now, Alex wasn't the type to pick up hitchhikers. It was a rule he lived by. But something about this was different. The fog was getting denser by the second, and she looked so out of place, so vulnerable. He slowed his car, his common sense battling with a strange, powerful sense of concern. He pulled over a little way past her and watched in his rearview mirror as she just stood there, unmoving. He couldn't just leave her. Against his better judgment, he put the car in reverse and slowly backed up. He rolled down the passenger window. "Hey, are you okay? It's pretty late and foggy to be out here." The woman turned to look at him, and his breath caught in his throat. She was beautiful, but her face was incredibly pale, and her eyes held a sadness so deep it was almost tangible. She didn't look scared, just resigned. "I need to get home," she said. Her voice was soft, barely a whisper above the engine's idle. "I live just a few miles up the road, on Orchard Lane." Alex knew Orchard Lane. It was an old, well-to-do neighborhood not far from his own. It seemed plausible. "All right," he said, "get in. I can't leave you out here in this." She opened the back door and slid onto the seat. The moment she was inside, a sudden, intense chill filled the car, the kind that sinks right into your bones. Alex shivered, blaming it on the damp night air seeping in through the open door. He pulled back onto the highway. "I'm Alex, by the way." There was no response from the back seat. He glanced in the rearview mirror. She was just staring out the window into the swirling fog. "So, what's your name?" He tried again, feeling a little awkward. A moment passed before she answered, her voice still a whisper, "Maria." The silence that followed was heavy. Alex tried to make small talk, asking about her night, why she was out so late, but every question was met with either a one-word answer or just more silence. The cold in the car seemed to be intensifying, and he could have sworn he smelled the faint, sweet scent of lilies, like funeral flowers. He cranked up the heat, but it did nothing to chase away the chill. He was starting to feel genuinely unnerved. The entire situation felt wrong. He kept glancing in his rearview mirror. Maria just sat there, perfectly still, a silent, pale figure in his back seat. Her stillness was what was so creepy. It wasn't natural. She didn't shift her weight, didn't fidget, didn't seem to breathe. "We're almost at the turnoff for Orchard Lane," Alex announced, his own voice sounding loud in the quiet car. "Which house is it?" Again, a pause. "The third house on the left, the big white one with the porch swing." Alex nodded, relieved that this strange encounter was almost over. He turned onto Orchard Lane, a street lined with old, majestic oak trees whose branches looked like skeletal fingers in the fog. He found the house easily. It was just as she described it, a large, beautiful Victorian home, with a classic wooden porch swing gently swaying in the misty breeze, as if someone had just gotten up from it. It looked peaceful, but also profoundly lonely. "Here we are," Alex said, turning to look into the back seat. But the back seat was empty. Maria was gone. Alex's heart hammered against his ribs. He slammed on the brakes. This was impossible. He hadn't heard the door open or close. He hadn't felt the car shift. He hadn't stopped moving since she got in. He fumbled to turn on the interior light, his hands shaking. The back seat was completely empty. The door was still locked from the inside. The seatbelt was still buckled, but she was gone, not vanished. Panic set in. He jumped out of the car, his mind racing. Did she jump out? No, impossible. He would have heard it, felt it. Did he imagine the whole thing? No. The cold in the car was real. The smell of lilies was still there. His rational mind was scrambling for an explanation, but there wasn't one. He stood there in the middle of the quiet street, staring at the empty back seat of his car, then up at the house. He had to do something. He couldn't just drive away. Maybe she was a prankster. Maybe she somehow slipped out and was hiding. He walked up the path to the front door of the big white house, his footsteps loud in the silence. His mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. He had to know what was going on. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. After a long moment, a porch light flickered on and the door creaked open. An elderly woman stood there, wrapped in a robe, her face etched with worry. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice frail. "It's awfully late." Alex struggled to find the words. I'm so sorry to bother you. This is going to sound crazy, but I just gave a ride to a young woman. She said she lived here. Her name was Maria." The old woman's face changed. The worry was replaced by a look of immense sadness, a look Alex had seen before in Maria's eyes. The woman sighed, a deep, weary sound. "You're not the first," she said softly. "We get someone like you stopping by every year or so, always around this time." She looked past Alex, toward the road. "Maria was our daughter. She was a wonderful, bright young woman." She paused, her voice trembling slightly. "She was killed in a car accident, not far from here, on the highway." It was a night just like this, foggy and dark. Alex felt a cold dread wash over him, colder than anything he'd felt in the car. It couldn't be. When? He managed to ask, his voice hoarse. The old woman looked him straight in the eyes. 10 years ago. Tonight is the anniversary of her death." Alex stood frozen on the porch, the world spinning around him. The pale girl in the white dress, the impossible disappearance, the deep sadness in her eyes. It all clicked into place in the most terrifying way imaginable. He had given a ride to a ghost. The woman then pointed to a framed photograph on a small table just inside the door. "Is this her?" she asked. Alex peered inside, and there she was. The same pale face, the same sad, beautiful eyes. It was Maria, smiling faintly in a simple white dress. The same dress she was wearing tonight. But that wasn't the most shocking part. As Alex stared at the photo, his eyes were drawn to something else, something draped over the back of a chair next to the photo. It was a dark gray jacket. His jacket. The one he always kept on the passenger seat of his car. The one that had been there when he started his drive tonight. It was gone from his car now. He knew, without even having to look. It was here, in her house. The old woman saw him staring at it. She was always so cold, she whispered. Every time someone brings her home, they find one of their belongings here the next day. A scarf, a glove, a jacket. It's like she brings a piece of them back with her. Alex couldn't speak. He could only stare at his jacket, a tangible, impossible piece of evidence in a situation that defied all logic. He had been a skeptic. He had lived in a world of facts and figures. But on that foggy night, on that lonely stretch of highway, the wall between his world and another had crumbled. He hadn't just heard a ghost story. He had become part of one. And this was only the beginning of how the Vanishing Hitchhiker would change his life forever. The old man's words hung in the air, thick and heavy like the fog that had swallowed the road just moments before. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. He told me to keep my eyes on the road, to not stop, no matter what I saw or heard. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one driving into a nightmare. I nodded, my throat too tight to form words. He gave me a final, somber look before melting back into the shadows of his porch, leaving me alone with the chilling silence and his cryptic warning. I put the car in drive, my foot hesitating over the accelerator. The sensible part of my brain was screaming at me to turn around, to go back to the diner, to wait until morning. But a morbid curiosity, a pull I couldn't explain, urged me forward. I had to know what was on this road. I had to know if the girl was real. My headlights cut a weak path through the oppressive darkness. The trees lining the road looked like skeletal fingers reaching out, their branches clawing at the sky. Every shadow seemed to move, to twist into menacing shapes. The radio, which had been playing static just a minute ago, was now completely silent. The car felt colder, a damp chill seeping through the vents that had nothing to do with the autumn night. I drove for what felt like an eternity, my eyes darting from the road to the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a face staring back at me. The mile markers I passed seemed to mock me, each one a slow tick of a clock counting down to something terrible. 10 miles passed, then 20. The fog was relentless, a ghostly shroud that muffled all sound and distorted all sight. I started to think the old man was just a local eccentric, trying to spook an out-of-towner. Maybe the girl was a prank, some local kids having a laugh. I let out a shaky breath, a small, nervous laugh escaping my lips. I was being ridiculous. And then I saw her. She was standing on the shoulder of the road, just ahead, a lone figure bathed in the ethereal glow of my headlights. It was the same girl, the same white dress, the same long, dark hair plastered to her face by a rain that wasn't falling. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the dead quiet of the car. The old man's warning screamed in my head, "Don't stop for anything." My foot instinctively hovered over the brake. My mind was a battlefield. One side yelled to stop, that she could be in real trouble. The other side, the side that had listened to the old man, urged me to speed up, to drive right past her and never look back. She didn't move. She just stood there, her arm outstretched, thumb pointing down the road. Her eyes, even from a distance, seemed to bore right through me. They were dark, empty pools of sorrow. As I got closer, I could see her lips moving, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. I slowed the car, almost to a crawl, my resolve crumbling. How could I just leave her here? What if she was hurt? What if she was freezing? The fog swirled around her, making her appear and disappear like a phantom. I was just a few feet away now. I could see the delicate lace on her dress, the way her hair clung to her pale skin. She looked so real, so tragically real. Against every rational thought, against the old man's desperate plea, I stopped the car. The engine idled, the only sound in the world. I rolled down the passenger window, the cold air rushing in and stealing my breath. "Are you okay? Do you need a ride?" My voice was a weak croak. She turned her head slowly, her movements unnervingly fluid. She leaned towards the window, and for the first time, I saw her face clearly. She was beautiful, but it was a haunting, tragic beauty. Her skin was almost translucent, and her eyes held a profound sadness that seemed ancient. "I'm so cold," she whispered, her voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "I need to get home. It's just up the road. My parents are waiting." Her plea was so simple, so human. All my fear evaporated, replaced by a wave of pity. "Of course," I said, my voice firmer now. "Get in. I'll take you." I leaned over and pushed the passenger door open from the inside. She hesitated for a second, then gracefully slid into the seat beside me. As she settled in, a blast of icy air filled the car, far colder than the night outside. The scent of damp earth and something else, something like fading flowers, filled my nostrils. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to the strange night. I closed her door and pulled back onto the road. "Where to?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She pointed a slender, almost skeletal finger forward. "It's not far, just past the old oak tree by the cemetery." A cemetery, of course. The knot of fear I thought had disappeared tightening my stomach again. We drove in silence for a few minutes. The fog seemed to be lifting slightly, as if allowing us passage. I glanced over at her. She was staring straight ahead, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She looked so fragile, so out of place. "My name's Alex, by the way," I offered, trying to break the heavy silence. She turned to me, a faint, sad smile on her lips. "I'm Eliza," she said softly. Her voice was barely audible, a fragile thing that the silence threatened to swallow whole. We continued on, the only sounds being the hum of the engine and my own ragged breathing. "Turn here," Eliza said, her voice pulling me from my thoughts. She was pointing to a narrow, unpaved lane that branched off the main road. It was almost completely hidden by overgrown bushes. An old, rusted signpost lay on the ground, the words long faded. To the right of the lane was a wrought iron fence, and behind it, I could make out the shapes of weathered tombstones. The cemetery. I turned onto the bumpy lane, the car's suspension groaning in protest. The lane led to a single house, a dark and dilapidated structure that looked like it had been abandoned for decades. The windows were boarded up, the paint was peeling, and the porch was sagging. "This is it?" I asked, confused. "This is your home?" "Yes," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the derelict house. "Thank you for bringing me home." She opened the car door before I could say another word. The dome light flickered on, illuminating the car's interior. As she stepped out, I noticed something on the passenger seat where she had been sitting. It was a dark, wet patch, a perfect outline of where she had been, and the smell of damp earth was stronger than ever. I watched her as she walked towards the house, her white dress glowing in the darkness. She didn't walk on the overgrown path. She seemed to float just above it. She moved towards the front door, not stopping, not slowing down. And then, she walked right through it. She just vanished into the rotting wood of the door, as if she were made of smoke. I sat there, frozen, my mind refusing to process what I had just seen. The fog had completely cleared now, and the moon cast an eerie light over the scene. The house, the cemetery, the silence. It was all real. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I needed to call someone, anyone, but there was no signal. I threw the car into reverse, the tires spitting gravel as I backed out of that cursed lane as fast as I could. I didn't stop driving until the sun came up, until the terrifying darkness was replaced by the safe, warm light of day. I never told the police. What would I say? That I gave a ride to a ghost? They would have thought I was crazy. But I know what I saw. I went back a week later, in the bright afternoon sun. I found the cemetery, and in a far, forgotten corner, beneath an ancient oak tree, I found her gravestone. It was old and weathered, covered in moss, but the name was still clear, Eliza, and the date of her death was 50 years ago. To the day, they say she still waits on that road on the anniversary of her death, forever trying to get home. I never drive that stretch of highway at night anymore. Some doors are best left unopened, and some passengers are best left by the side of the road. Before we wrap this up, I want to give a huge, massive shout out to every single one of you who has subscribed to the channel. Your support means the world to me and allows me to keep finding and sharing these chilling stories. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you. And that's our tale for tonight. What would you have done? Would you have stopped? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more spooky content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Ghosttery. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Until next time, stay safe and try not to pick up any strangers.